holy death. Death in ancient Egypt. Images of death. Death as dismemberment. The Egyptian image of the body. Part 2. With the French sociologist Émile Durkheim, we can distinguish two different forms of thinking about the relationship between unity and multiplicity, the organic and the mechanical, or perhaps better, the connective. What Emma Brunner-Traut rightly notes is the absence of the organic model, in which the relation between the one and the many is conceived after the model of an organism, whose parts are functionally interdependent. In this model, all the parts of the whole work on one another. Every movement and change is to a greater or lesser extent taken up and reflected by all of them. This model seems in fact to have played no special role in Egypt. We do not encounter collective identities such as clan, tribe, kinship group, or people, which are regarded as organically predetermined. Such units must, of course, have existed in prehistoric Egypt, as in all tribal societies, but under the Egyptian state, they retreated into the background, at least in the official semantics. This semantics was so universally dominant that it allowed for no organic forms of social grouping outside the bureaucratic, administrative and priestly, and later also the military, professional hierarchies. Brunner-Traut quite rightly maintains, extended families, as we still often find them in the Middle and Far East, did not exist, not even kinship groups, with a collective identity through a series of generations. But that did not mean that the individual was to be understood as an isolated element in an amorphous or aggregated mass. Here, the connective model comes into play, the concept of a medium that binds elements thought to be unbound into a comprehensive unity. We have a definite impression that the connective model was in the service of the state and the form it assumed, that of a pharaonic monocracy. The Egyptians developed a sort of connective ethic aimed at binding the individual into the structure of the state, to the principle of the expective, which does not perceive a unity as such, but rather breaks it down into its components. There corresponds a connective thought that inquires as to the binding elements. With regard to the theme of death, the presence of connective thinking is especially clear on two levels: on that of the Egyptian image of the body, which has to do with dismemberment and piecing together, and on that of the Egyptian image of social structure, which has to do with isolation and integration. As in many other societies, in ancient Egypt there was a correspondence between the image of the body and that of social structure. We shall first consider the image of the body. If the body presents itself to the expective, dissecting gaze as a marionette, what are the binding elements, the connective media that integrate this puppet into a living body? The French physician and Egyptologist Thierry Bardnet has been able to supply a conclusive answer to this question. The connective thinking is especially clear from the Egyptian theory, as deduced by him, of the circulation of blood. The Egyptians recognized the function of the blood and blood vessels in integrating the limbs into a body. So long as the heart pumps blood through the vessels and its beating is perceptible, speaks, as the Egyptians put it, in all the veins, the parts of the body remain integrated and thus alive. The heart was thus the epitome and the guarantor or generator of connectivity in the bodily sphere. We must therefore deal with it in some detail. As a dead god, Osiris' epithet was the weary of heart. Weariness of the heart belongs to the image of death as decay and dismemberment. To unite the limbs and animate the body, the heart must be alive or awake, and be in its place. The heart must thus be stimulated, awakened, animated, and be securely set in place. The corresponding opposite conditions are the weary heart or weariness of heart, the designation of the condition of death, noted just above, and b. the removed or absent heart. In both conditions, that of weariness and that of absence, the heart fails to perform its centralizing function, and the person dissolves into a disparate multiplicity.